The following program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
So, Lori Smith here, people. She's a conservative evangelical Christian, I guess if you want to call her that, who's got a case in front of the Supreme Court where she's arguing that she has a free speech right that supersedes Colorado's anti-discrimination law. Okay, and her case has no plaintiff. Okay, you know what I'm saying? She's bringing this, it's like a preemptive case before she opens up her business. Okay, so it's weird. I mean, because you usually don't see cases like this where there is no plaintiff. Usually what happens is when you go to court for something and you got a plaintiff and one side doesn't agree with the decision made, they'll appeal it and go to the next court. And if the other side doesn't agree with their position, then they'll appeal that case and goes to the next court. And usually that's how it works up the ladder to the Supreme Court. Okay, now the Supreme Court is presented with thousands of requests for cases to be heard every year. Okay, and in some fluke of a way, this case without a plaintiff managed to work its way right up to the Supreme Court. And of course, the 6-3 conservative favor Supreme Court snatched this one up really quick, okay, to listen to. And people will ask why, but I think the evidence is pretty clear. You see, this is the way the conservatives want to be able to enact policies to slash people's rights, okay? They deliberately pushed this case all the way up the ladder. Okay, so now the Supreme Court can sit there and argue about free speech. Okay, now they have a reason now to talk about this and to set precedent on getting rid of a right. Okay, or at least cripple it. So that way, this woman here can be a bitch, a bigoted bitch, with her company. That's what. So if she's allowed to do that, then a lot of places are going to be able to discriminate now, okay? And, with the Supreme Court being stacked against democracy, they're going to, in my guess, they're going to be able to do what they want, and this woman will get her way. Now, whether or not this woman really has a business that she wants to start is really in question here, okay? I really don't know if this woman really does have an intention to create a business. I think this is probably a mock-up, because I'll tell you, when today, when the Supreme Court was listening to the argument and all that, because they had no plaintiff, all the other side of the argument, which didn't exist, had to come to this court in theories, hypothesis, stickman arguments. You know what I'm saying? So as you watch this back and forth between the Supreme Court, okay, and the lawyers, you're going to hear some pretty outlandish theories about how discrimination can be a good thing. I guess as far as Samuel Alito goes, like one of the arguments about Santa Claus and how having a black Santa at a shopping mall refusing to serve children dressed like Ku Klux Klan members. You know what I'm saying? It's really an insult to so many people that even became an example. Okay, but that's what they were reduced to doing because they didn't have a plaintiff. You see what I'm saying? They didn't have somebody to fight for, the lawyers for that side to argue and against what would have happened to them is being discriminated against. No, this lady, this Lori Smith, is looking for permission, okay, to be a racist bitch with her business. Okay, and it isn't just racism. I mean, she's also looking not to serve LGBTQ rights. Okay, she doesn't want to deal with that either. She's basically just wanting to be, a Christian and serving Christians only in her business. Now, let me tell you how stupid that is, because in this day and age, money is money. Doesn't matter where it comes from. And if you want your business to grow and you want it to succeed, you're not going to discriminate against anybody. Okay, you're going to let these people come in and empty their wallets, and it's not a very smart thing to tell people not to be there, because what will happen is people are going to remember that, and all of a sudden you're going to notice your business drying up, because not everybody who is Christian is going to be supportive of somebody who's Christian and a racist. Okay, they're not going to be supportive of that. Okay, she represents a sliver of the Christian religion. Okay, not everybody in Catholicism or what have you thinks that way. Okay, most people I've run into that are Christian are very tolerant of things. Okay, as they should be. Even if you don't agree with it, you don't have to come out, and just publicly lambaste the hell out of these people. But then there's those on one side who feel self-righteous enough where they need to hold up a flag everywhere they go and say, I hate black people, or I hate gays, or I hate Jews, or you know what I'm saying? These people love it. Okay? These people love it. And why do they love it? I don't know. I guess there's some screw loose in their head where they feel like, it makes them feel good to be able to do that sort of thing. I don't know. But what I can say is that the Supreme Court giving this woman, the attention to do what they're doing here she's only, how can I say it? She's the avatar of all the Christian people in this country who are bigots. Okay, they sent this woman forward to speak, to be the reason that they can talk this thing in front of the Supreme Court as a debate. Okay, which at the end of the day, because it's a 6-3 court in Republican favor, that this was just a show we saw today. They already know how they're going to rule on this thing, because look how quickly they ruled against Roe versus Wade. This Republican court, people, is about taking away things and rights from people. Okay, they're all about destroying democracy, because whatever it is that they want for a government to replace what we have, it's not a democracy. It's something else. Okay, and it ain't going to be very nice. We're not going to like at all what it's going to look like for us if they get what they get. Okay, so this court here is no. I mean, even the new media outlets are already saying that this court is leaning in Lori Smith's favor. Okay, she wants to be able to put on her web page that she won't service people that are gay or of other different religion or different race. Okay, she wants it known to everybody. But like I said, you know, if you don't, for one thing, you don't do that if you're trying to make money. Second thing is, if you want your business to stay viable, what you do is you don't publicize your bigotry. What you do is when you get calls from people that want something done and you don't agree with who it is on the phone and what they want done, all you have to do is say, well, I'm too busy. I can't do that. Okay, I'm too busy. So that protects you from libel, and it also protects your business. Okay, people can think what they want. Okay, but they can't run to the court and say, well, I think they're being racist. Okay, if they got no evidence of it. But if they do have evidence that you are being a racist, okay, then they can sue the shit out of you. And that's what she's trying to do. She wants to be racist and not be punished for it. Okay, and if the Supreme Court gives her the right to be able to do that, then that's going to open up a lot of other businesses wanting to do the same thing and it's really, really going to be a fucking holy mess. Okay, forgiving the pun here, but it's going to be a holy mess that we're going to open up this country to, okay, and we're going to have to live with. Because I told you before, it's easy to get something done, okay, to create something, than it is to backpedal it back to nothing, okay. Once the Supreme Court rules on this and makes it so, okay, to quote Picard here, it's going to be twice as hard to get rid of it, okay. So whenever they have, you know, whenever they decide to pick new justices or something like that, or whatever, we're going to have a problem in those years to come that we're not going to be able to undo this. You know, especially if we don't have votes in our favor for Democrats. I mean, it's a reality we'll have to live with. So the fact that the Supreme Court right now has the ball in their hand to basically cut another right out of the Constitution, you know, that's going to leave us with another piece of shit of a thing we're going to have to fix. Okay. It's fallout again from the Trump years, from Donald Trump and the friggin' maggots he created, and the justices he put in the Supreme Court while he was president. This is you see how having one wrong president just for a 1-year term can create years and years and years of fallout. Do you see what you see what I'm saying? This is something that people don't understand when it comes to voting. You pick the right people to do the job. You don't pick clowns, you know, and celebrities from game shows and stuff like that to be your president, because these people don't know how to govern. All right? They've never done it in a day in their life, and you put these folks in front of the camera to do these things, and then, you know, what happens is they're beholden to groups of people you wouldn't even want to talk to or be associated with. And then all of a sudden you start noticing cuts being done in your government, things taken away from you that you didn't want taken away. Okay, some of you people out there who did support Trump are probably, if you got any brains at all in your head, you probably are regretting that at this time, that you ever let that man in there. Because I'll tell you, as bad as you know, the other choices were, like Bernie and Hillary, they had nothing compared to what Donald Trump has done. They wouldn't have done anything like that in those 4 years to justify the continued fight that Democrats have to wage here against the Republicans to sweep up the friggin' turds that the Republican Party left on the rugs of the White House and everything in those 4 years. I mean, they made a blistering mess out of the government, and that's really what it's all about. They're them taking down the United States government. They want to replace it with some other form of government that has nothing to do with democracy. I mean, when they're talking about taking away rights, they're talking about destroying democracy. They're talking about telling the world we can't make a democracy work. It doesn't happen. Okay, when you start singling out people in your own country and you're saying we don't want you here, we don't want you there, you're telling the world that a blending pot cannot be possible. Okay, we can't have people from different parts of life living together under one government. It doesn't work. That's what the Republicans are trying to tell you. We can't have the American dream doesn't work. Okay, and they've systematically made sure that it doesn't work over the hundreds of years the country's been around. They've been steadily picking at it to the point where what began as the United States isn't the same thing that it is today. Okay, there've been good things made. There's been a lot of mistakes made, but the Republicans have always been on the side of, with a hammer and chisel, trying to change the image of the Statue of Liberty. Okay, they're turning it into something else, and it's not a democracy. It's a very, very exclusive, very rigid, religious kind of thing that they want created in its place. And you can pick any other country in the world that has that sort of government, and those people there aren't happy living there like that at all. Okay, and so that's where we're headed. if we let Republicans continue to get their way. And that's what this thing here is, just another step in that direction of creating this crazy ass government. And so what they do is they go out looking for people who have, a case that has something to do with civil rights, okay? And the Republicans will push them up through the system and bring it to the Supreme Court, where what they've done is they've created a default sort of discussion, broadcast around the world, if you will, okay, talking about a right that they want to get rid of, but they needed to have a reason to hear it in the Supreme Court. And what the Supreme Court did all the talking. They come up with the stupid theories and shit like that today to try and justify the ruling they're going to hand down. But people were kind of snickering and laughing in the background because the examples they were bringing up were outlandish. Okay, and that right there is a sign that this is really not meant to be a Supreme Court case. This was just a discussion about a discussion that's supposed to justify a decision that was already made, okay, from the day that these new judges took the bench, okay, and every one of them a fucking liar too, might add. They committed perjury, okay, and the fact that there's still Supreme Court justices who perjured themselves, and there's been nothing done about that is outlandish. I mean, that right there is another attack on our democracy right there, where law and order just doesn't freaking factor into that when it's somebody on the bench, okay. So there's so many things wrong with this, but like I said, this Lori Smith claiming that she wants to start a business and wants to be able to run that business as a racist. Well, who knows if that's even her real name, Lori Smith? Who knows if she even has a business? Okay, I don't know. And maybe when this is all over, all of a sudden Lori Smith and the business won't even exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's how friggin' vindictive the Republican Party will be to get its way. They'll create these problems that aren't problems just so it gets attention by people who can make policy and create damage. Isn't that the way they've always been? Like the critical race theory argument during an election time. They bring that up like that's a real problem people are talking about, and there is no critical race theory taught in elementary schools and shit like that. Okay, they create something in order to create a situation where they can possibly get their way. Okay, and I feel like, how many times are Democrats going to fall for this shit and not call it what it is? All right, this should be laughed right out of the Supreme Court, and if these justices had any balls at all, they would dismiss this case, as wasting their time, because, like I said, they've got more important cases to review than this bogus theoretical argument on free speech here. Okay, they want to. That's how they're going to take that away from us, as by rewriting it, changing it, chipping away at it, and before you know it, the First Amendment won't mean anything. Okay. So that's what I want to discuss here for today.